ketamine actually distills a certain element of the psyche, and then just it lets that element interact with this whole weird plane. And there's not a lot of connections with the animal body, but the tryptamines are like carrying the animal body all the way through it all. So it's all still archaic, and there's sex, and there's fear, and all of these the animals in this space. The ketamine is like a little drop of like awareness, pure awareness, enters into this zone, and you just completely
a bit like that.
You're completely. I mean, if you remember like things in your life, they're all part of these networks of cosmic cause, and they're so impersonal. I mean, it's a very impersonal environment.
Sometimes on ketamine, I had the impression it's like this all the time. I simply don't notice, which isn't a very sense-making perception. But,
yeah. No, it does have an always already quality to it. The whole quality of time is very different than with also with tryptamines, which have a more kind of propulsive.
Yeah, you're right about how
it
accentuates the animal body and just shows you some kind of hyper state of being,
or even metabolism.
Yeah, something like that. Where it's just 50,000% more powerful than you thought was the specs would tolerate.
What do you think of MDMA?
It never spun me like it apparently did other people. It seemed very pleasant. I didn't quite ever get, the fight to save MDMA and all that. I figured from what I was hearing around me that it was doing a lot of good in psychotherapy, and so those people should be supported. But personally, I never. It seemed. Well, it seemed like very much like every drug as it's introduced into society. It's usually claimed to solve relationship problems, and then, well, that's the best packaging, is to say that a drug solves relationship problems.
Well, of course, the link to that right on the top was, the warning that you could believe that you were deeply involved with somebody and wind up making stupid decisions.
Well, when was that not true?
Yeah. No, I remember the first time. I mean, that was specifically one of the stories that was told around, and that was relatively early. That being.
You mean people deciding to marry the wrong person?
Or whatever, yeah, that kind of thing.
Because they
had such an intimate experience. I only had a few. I only took it a few times. I find it extremely taxing on the system in a way that I.
Oh, you mean the next day you
yes.
feel terrible?
Yeah, I find it very taxing in a way that makes me very dubious about it.
It's an amphetamine. It's hard to take the A out of amphetamine.
Yeah, it's true. The amphetamine down is really quite a monster. I actually like crystal methadone, but it's not worth it.
It just wears you too hard.
Yeah, it's too hard. It's like it's fun, but
every gear is flopping on its axle by the time you're through. Yeah.
Do you have a position about the relationship of the psychedelic experience to non-psychedelic mysticism?
Oh, I think I see what you're trying to get at. Some kind of, what's the Neoplatonic, what's the Platonic connection to the psychedelic experience?
That's one way of thinking of it.
Yeah, in that sense, yeah. I mean, maybe we need to ask the question over again, but the psychedelic vision is of some kind of relevant thing. It isn't just, it isn't the equivalent of a dust bunny under your psychic bed or something like that. It's actually a product of the, well, I mean, it's hard to English it, but a product of the fractal laws that govern information theory. that's a theme. I mean, that Neil Stevenson and all these people understand, that it really is all about how everything is put together at the informational level. There's no deeper truth. And so all this talk about code and virtual reality and how the portions of our reality might be code running in some way, and all of this is all, I think, trying to get at something about information theory that needs to be fundamentally understood before we can all together take the next step to the next level.
What's the relationship between what's happening with these information networks and this kind of object or matrix or fecund hyperdimensional?
You mean, how does our own cyberspatial technology relate to the presence of this Neoplatonic object of... Well, that sounds like this dialogue you want to get in on with the garland of letters, or the Kabbalah, or, I mean, mathematics is somehow this web of something which holds nature together and seems to spring out of a higher mind of some sort. I mean, mathematics is really what it's all about when you finally get it sliced thin, I think. And that makes sense platonically and from this Neoplatonic thing, that's... and by Neoplatonic, I mean Proclus and Plotinus and those people who came about 500 years late after Christ. Yeah. Have you been to Ravenna? That's where they have these mosaics that are... Because it was basically a theory of pixelation. It was an elemental theory. So they were tiny, pure, undividable elements of essence that went together to produce phenomena. Well, all those people came out around the end of the 6th or early 7th century. It was Plotinus, Proclus, Porphyry. Yeah, Plotinus. He had the right idea. And, it was late Gnosticism. So all this star magic and really wild theories of stellar... Well, it was when the Hermetic corpus was settling nicely into position. And all those doctrines of calling down the voices and all that.
But do you think we're in some sense in a structurally resonant position vis-a-vis late antiquity?
Well, let me think about that for a minute. Well, always in some degree, because these fractal things are just endlessly echoing and re-echoing inside the structure of time. But yeah, I mean, what we share with that era is a kind of fundamentally existential confusion about what's going on. So so doubt itself becomes a philosophical position, which in fact all doubt means is I'm shopping, thank you. So you know what I mean?